Good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be amongst you all virtually, if not in reality. It's all due to Mr. Ramkumar Warrior. I think he's there as one of the. He's there. I can see his name. So thank you, Mr. Ramkumar, for introducing me to Khaki. And it's really nice to talk about my favorite subject, dinosaurs. And as all of you know, I am fondly called Dr. Dinosaur or Princess Dinosaur because I've been associated with the village of Rahioli, where the excavation site is for nearly 28 years. So I'm a conservationist, I'm a protector of this rare dinosaur fossils which have been discovered here, dinosaur fossils and eggs both. And of course, it's a joint effort with a lot of other team members also, which today has brought this tiny little village on the world map. And we have a fantastic museum by Gujarat Tourism in the tiny little village of Rahioli. So without wasting more time, we can proceed about talking about the Earth's lost giants, as we call them. So I have a small presentation, a PPT presentation for you, which I hope will encourage some of you to make the journey to Balasinor and come and see the museum and the excavation site in person. So we'll begin with the first slide. Can we? Yes. So, dinosaur is something which in the recent years has fascinated not only the young, but it has fascinated even the adults. But the children of today, they know more about dinosaurs and prehistoric wildlife than even the adults, because they are so exposed to the world of dinosaurs more than what we were at their age. But what I have encountered over the years that I have been doing tours at the museum and the park, like every second or third child wants to become a paleontologist. And in this group of participants, I also see one of the kid, Devansh, who calls himself Devanshosaurus. He's one of my most ardent followers. So nice to see you on this platform, Devansh. I wanted to take his name because he's one of the biggest fans of dinosaurs that I've come across. So, anyway, coming back to dinosaurs, this is, as I mentioned, a very fascinating creature. Now, I do get asked this question a lot of times that why only dinosaurs? Why no other animals? So, there's this one thing is this dinosaurs were so majestic. They were so like beautiful. I call them beautiful, that they have fascinated everyone. And that's why we have these movies and all. There is this part of people who also don't believe that the dinosaurs actually existed, but then that's a second story. Now, when we talk of dinosaurs, the term dinosaur actually got coined in the year 1842. But when we talk of dinosaurs in India, little do anyone knows that dinosaurs also existed in India. I asked this question to a lot of people during my tours, especially kids, that what's your favorite dinosaur? And the answer that I get most of the time, 99% of the time, is T-Rex, Tyrannosaurus Rex. The T-Rex is so famous because, we are so exposed to the T-Rex through the movies, the Jurassic Park, the Jurassic World and all. Little does anyone knows that there were dinosaurs in India with Indian names, or for that matter, there were Guju dinosaurs. I'll talk about them later in the session. So I always mention that India has a lot to offer, not only in dinosaurs, but in other prehistoric wildlife. But we don't know, we are not aware. So through these sessions, through the tours that I conduct in the museums, or through the sessions that I conduct in schools and colleges across India, and through the Zoom sessions also, I like to let the people know what all India has to offer. So, the term dinosaur, it got coined in the year 1842. And in reality, the first dinosaur fossil to be scientifically described was from the United Kingdom in the year 1824. But do you know that the world's first dinosaur fossil, was discovered in 1824, But Asia's first dinosaur fossil was discovered from India, Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, in the year 1828, just 4 years later. And at that time, the term dinosaur also wasn't coined. So, this is again something that India has to offer. Secondly, can we go to the next slide? These are in the first slide, these are just some of the periods and all, which I'm sure most of you know. So that's Sir Richard Owen and all. Now, this is a map of India, and this shows a few of the sites across India where some of the fossils, not only of dinosaurs, but other creatures also. So, as a layman, one tends to think that there were only dinosaurs on this earth. That was not the case. As a layman, we tend to think that. There were other animals also which lived alongside dinosaurs. And a lot of these prehistoric animal fossils have been discovered from India. So, like for example, they have discovered some whale fossils from the Himalayas. And these some of these ancestors of the present day whales actually used to walk on land, which is very, very interesting. So they have found discovered fossils from Pakistan and the foothills of the Himalayas. Then we have the Civatherium, which is the ancestor of the giraffe. We have the Paraceratherium, which is the ancestor of the present day rhino. So various animals which have been discovered from India. So in detail, we'll go through them in the coming slides. So can we go to the next slide, please? So this is just a general topography of the excavation site. So Rahioli is actually a tiny little village which wasn't even on the world map. No one knew about it. But today it has become very prominent. And we have managed to barricade approximately 72 hectares, which comes under the Bombay Protection Act. So that's the fossil excavation site where they have found the fossilized remains of the dinosaurs, both the bones and the eggs. And on the right picture that you see, the red part is the one which is the excavation site. And where the yellow marking is where the current museum by Gujarat Tourism is located. So we can go to the next slide, please. We can skip this and go to the next one. Yeah, so these are some of the creatures which I'm sure most of you have seen in the movies. So sauropods is actually a term, a technical term which is used to describe the long-necked dinosaurs which used to feast on the tall trees. That is one of the reasons they had long necks. Now, for me, these are very fascinating creatures personally, because the longer the neck, most of them, the longer the tail to balance it out. And the reason they had long necks is but obvious. The trees were very tall and they had to feast on the tall trees. The interesting thing about them is because they were slow and lumbering because of the weight was around starting from 33,000 kilos. They couldn't move very quickly. So they generally became food for the carnivore. Now, how would they protect themselves from the predator? They would use the tail as a weapon. One of these species of sauropods, called the Diplodocus, used to use its tail to whack the enemy. So with the advancement of technology, they have been able to find out that the whipping of the tail actually created a supersonic boom. It broke the sound barrier. Isn't that fascinating? So these were one of the largest creatures ever found on this earth, the sauropods. The next slide, please. Till one point of time, the Argentinosaurus was considered to be one of the largest dinosaur ever discovered from the world. But naturally, the name Argentinosaurus comes from Argentina because its fossilized remains were found in Argentina. So yes, the naming does have a significance to the region where it was found, or the person who founded it, or for maybe any of its distinctive feature. The next slide. Now, the dinosaur which broke the record of the Argentinosaurus was this guy. It's called the Patagotitan maiorem. Its fossils were found in Argentina, Patagonia, Argentina, South America. Patago, but obviously means Patagonia. Titan means big. And maiorem, because it was found on the farm of the Mayo family. So as I mentioned, every naming has a significance. So today it is considered to be the largest dinosaur ever found in the world, breaking the record of the Argentinosaurus, and it was double the size. The next slide. So this is a replica of the Argentinosaurus. So you can see how massive it was. The next slide, please. So this is something very interesting. This is the single femur bone of the Patagotitan, which was measuring 8 feet in length. A single piece of a bone. Just see, and you have one of the researchers, one of the paleontologists. His name is Diego Pol. He's sleeping next to it. He seems to be smaller in front of this large femur bone. So this is during the excavation in Patagonia. So this is just to show you, see that how massive these creatures were. Now coming back to dinosaurs from India, we've had approximately more than 30 types of dinosaurs from India, discovered from all parts of India, from Madhya Pradesh to Telangana, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, some parts of Kerala, Gujarat, and even in Gujarat, two places, which is one is Kutch and the other is, of course, Rahioli, Balasinor. I'll tell you in detail about some of them. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, so this is now I would like to talk about Rahioli in particular. As I mentioned, Rahioli is a tiny little village. No one was aware about it. How the discovery happened is very interesting. There used to be a cement quarry near Balasinor. So the villagers used to dig for limestone. And they used to find these round limestone balls, which they did not know what they were. So they used to come and give these round limestone balls to my late father, who was a Nawabzadi of Balasinor, saying that Nawabzadi, these are your cannon balls from your cannons. Topo ke gole. My father said, we've become a democracy and I don't have the cannons anymore. So please take them back. I don't want this clutter in my compound. My father was not aware, the villagers were not aware what it was. The villagers went and gave some of these round limestone balls to the quarry manager. The quarry manager used them to line the garden pathway as decorative pieces, and he put some of them on the windowsill. In the 1980s, we had two mappers from the Geological Survey of India who were here on a systematic mapping mission looking for mineral deposits. They had no knowledge about dinosaur fossils being discovered in Balasinor at that point of time. They had no knowledge about it at all. So they went to the cement quarry, and in front of them, a blasting took place, a boulder fell, and that boulder was actually a nest of dinosaur eggs, of course, which that was discovered later, but at that point of time, they did not know what it was. So they took one of those round limestone balls to Ahmedabad, to the Physical Research Laboratory, where we had a very prominent paleontologist visiting by the name of Dr. Ashok Sahni. He is actually the Dino Man of India, and he himself comes from a very illustrious background. So when Dr. Ashok Sahni saw this round limestone ball, he exclaimed, he said, "Oh my God, this is a dinosaur egg. Where did you find it?" And they said this was discovered in this, the cement quarry and all that. So after that, a detailed report was submitted to the Geological Survey of India headquarters, which is in Calcutta. They sent a team here, and that team managed to excavate approximately 400 bones, of which you can see it on the map. So some of the bones are highlighted, slightly darker in color, and some of them are lighter in color. So the ones which are lighter in color are actually belonging to a herbivore dinosaur, one of the plant-eating dinosaur. And the darker the bones, they are belonging to a carnivore dinosaur. So you can see that some of the bones have got intermingled. So this map is actually the map of the bones, of the fossilized bones, lying in the field before they were excavated. All right. So after they were excavated, they were sent to Jaipur, where later on research also took place by paleontologists who were visiting from the University of Chicago and Michigan. Now, interestingly, the carnivore bones, which were lesser in number, as you can even see in the map, they were more interesting because they found teeth, jaw, parts of the skull, which was, the brain case, and a horn. So on that basis, they made a nearly complete skull. And this was the skull of a carnivore dinosaur not found anywhere else in the world except from India. So some parts of this particular carnivore dinosaur were also discovered from Madhya Pradesh. And they gave it a name, Rajasaurus narmadensis. Raja, because it had a horn on its head, which looked like a crown, and narmadensis, because most of the bones were found on the banks of the river Narmada. So that is why the naming, Rajasaurus narmadensis. So Rajasaurus was a 30-foot stocky carnivore dinosaur which feasted on the long-necked Titanosaurus, whose bones were also found in the same pits as you can see by the map. So this is actually the top picture that you see is a representational picture of the skull. So the gray parts and the yellow parts are what they have discovered. Those are the real fossilized bones of the skull part. So most of the research took place in the University of Chicago and Michigan. So the discoveries took place between, it's mentioned, in 1982 to 1984. This is what the Rajasaurus would look like. It was a mighty predator. We call it the Indian cousin of the T-Rex. But researchers say that it was more ferocious than the T-Rex itself. It was an ambush predator. Can we go to the next slide? We have some more pictures of the Rajasaurus. Okay. This is, as I mentioned, Rahioli is a tiny little village no one knew about, not even on the world map. But in recent times, it has become prominent because for 2, 3 reasons. First and foremost, Rahioli has been not officially declared, but it is considered to be one of the third largest hatcheries in the world. Hatchery is a place where the dinosaurs laid the eggs. So they have discovered more than 10,000 eggs from here, belonging to both carnivore and the herbivore. So unique thing about Rahioli is also the fact that it is the hatchery as well as the graveyard. Now, also, they've discovered fossilized bones of an animal, which were not of an animal, or rather a dinosaur, which were not discovered anywhere in the world, anywhere in India, except for this village of Rahioli. So the paleontologists who were from the Texas Tech University, the geologists from the Geological Survey of India and Indian Statistical Institute, they gave it a name befitting to this region, calling it Rahiolsaurus gujaratensis. So imagine a tiny little village, which was not even on the world map, today has a dinosaur named after it, which is called Rahiolsaurus gujaratensis. So it has the name of the village, Rahioli, and it has the name of the state, Gujarat, also in it. Again, it was a carnivore dinosaur. The only difference between the Rajasaurus and the Rahiolsaurus was that the Rajasaurus was more robust, very bulky. The Rahiolsaurus was slightly slender. And whereas the Rajasaurus had a distinguishing feature, as in the horn, the Rahiolsaurus did not have a horn. That was the only difference. But these two were the carnivore dinosaurs which were discovered from Rahioli. So I lovingly call them my Guju dinosaurs. Ironically, both were carnivore. So we have 3 documented dinosaurs from Rahioli Balasinor: Rajasaurus, Rahiolsaurus, and the Titanosaurus. Now, this is again a very interesting discovery from Balasinor region. So in the 1980s, again, they discovered a nest of dinosaur eggs. And in that nest, they discovered fossilized remains of an animal. So in the first place, they thought that it's a mother dinosaur. But obviously, what will you find with eggs? A mother dinosaur, or a father dinosaur, or in the worst scenario, a predator dinosaur. That was not the case. After a lot of research, which took place in the University of Chicago and Michigan, they were able to announce to the world in 2010 that it was a 3.5-meter snake, which had coiled itself around the nest. And as it was about to pounce on the Titanosaurus hatchling, there were floods. And the whole thing got washed away. What got washed away? The baby hatchling, the dinosaur hatchling, the snake, and the unhatched eggs. And a debris of soil and rocks fell on it, and it got buried. 65 million years later, they found the whole thing intact. So the above picture that you see is actually the cleaned and prepared fossilized eggs, and you can see the snake also. And the bottom picture is actually the replica or the model. So you can see that the snake has coiled itself around the unhatched eggs, and there's a baby titanosaurus, the green hatchling. And as the snake was about to pounce on it, because of the floods, it couldn't eat the hatchling. So this is a very interesting fossil, a very unique fossil, not found anywhere else in the world except from India, that too from Rahioli, not Rahioli, but a small little village called Dholi Dungri near Balasinor itself, like around 5-10 kilometers from Rahioli. And for the first time, you have a non-dinosaurian predation on a dinosaur. Non-dinosaurian means a non-dinosaur, that is a snake trying to eat a baby dinosaur. So it also proves that snakes existed with dinosaurs, which means that other animals also lived along with dinosaurs. And another interesting thing, as layman's, we tend to think that dinosaur eggs were massive in size, maybe the size of a room. That was not the case. The largest creatures, which were the herbivore, their eggs were round, spherical. So the largest egg that been discovered is the size of a football, not bigger than that. And the baby which hatched was generally very small, just 0.5 meter. So after they hatched, the growth rate was very quick. So with this one particular fossil, a lot of things have come into the limelight. We have learned a lot about the dinosaur or the snake or the prehistoric era. And this is the name of the snake was called Sanaje indicus. Again, a very unique thing was that the snake's mouth was open. So it was just like frozen in time, or like as kids when we used to play statue. So it's what we call quick entombment. यानी एक झटके में इसकी कब्र बन गई. As the floods came, and soil and debris fell on it, and it got buried at the precise moment. So this is again a very, very interesting fossil discovery from the Balasinor region. And as you can see in the diagram on the extreme right, is how the snake was ready to pounce on the hatchling. So this also, we have the replica in the museum. The original fossil of this Sanaje indicus is in the GSI in Nagpur. We are trying to get it back to our museum. So these are some of the dinosaurs from India. As you can see, that's the Rajasaurus on the right. The other one is called the Tharosaurus indicus. It's a representational picture again. So Tharosaurus was actually fossilized remains of a herbivore dinosaur, which was discovered from Jaisalmer in Rajasthan. So approximately around, I think, 2 years back. So they gave it a name, Tharosaurus indicus, after the Thar desert. And the one which is on the extreme at the bottom is called the Indosaurus metlae. It was a very small dinosaur. So one thing we must understand that not all dinosaurs were massive. Some of them were smaller in size also. So the Indosaurus metlae was from Madhya Pradesh. Now, this is an interesting dinosaur. This is called Kotasaurus. Now, the reason I like to talk about these Indian dinosaurs is because even though they are very well documented in the Western countries, here in India, we are not aware. So at least through my sessions, I like to let everyone know about them. So this particular dinosaur fossilized remains were found in present-day Telangana. It has a very interesting name. It's called Kotasaurus yamanapalensis. I know it's a very long and lengthy name, and most of these are big tongue twisters. So Kota as in not in Kota, Rajasthan. Kota is actually a Kota formation of rocks. Okay, so in present day Telangana, there's a village called Yamanapalli. So on the outskirts of this village of Yamanapalli, they discovered these fossilized remains of a dinosaur, which was a herbivore. And because these bones were found from Yamanapalli, they dedicated this dinosaur to that village. So it is called Kotasaurus yamanapalensis. So interestingly, the Kotasaurus bones in India, we have only 2 mounted skeletons. When I say mounted skeletons, there may be a lot of mounted skeletons all across India, but mounted skeletons which has original bones in it. When you go to Western countries and most of the museums in the Western countries, you have these mounted skeletons which they also have real bones in it. But in India, you have only two mounted skeletons. So one of them is a Scotosaurus, which has 80% of the bones which are original. And this is in the Birla Science Museum in Hyderabad. Now, we also have a dinosaur which has been named after Rabindranath Tagore. So, on the border of Karnataka and Maharashtra, they found these fossilized bones. And one of the laborer, he found this large limb bone, which was possibly part of a leg. So, वो जोर जोर से चिल्लाया, बड़ा पाँव, बड़ा पाँव, बड़ा पाँव. Not the बड़ा पाँव of Mumbai. Bada pav means bada pair, big foot, big leg. So bara means Bara. Bara means bada. And pa means pair, foot, leg. And because it was found in the centenary year of Rabindranath Tagore, they dedicated this dinosaur to him. So this dinosaur skeleton also has real bones in it, and it is now in the Indian Statistical Institute in Calcutta. Now, what you see on the top is actually an ancestor of the modern day giraffe. They don't look like giraffes, but this is how they were. This is called the Civatherium. And the other is also an animal whose fossilized remains were found in Hoshangabad district in Madhya Pradesh. All right, so we'll go to the next slide. So there are lots of things which we can talk about, and lots of things, but I think we should be quick about it. So let's go to the next slide, please. There's lots to talk about more. Okay, this is the Paraceratherium. For me, this personally, it holds a special place in my heart because I don't know, I really love this creature. Paraceratherium was actually considered to be one of the largest terrestrial mammal to ever exist. Do you know its present day descendant, what it is? You'll be very surprised to know it is a present day rhino. So it's very interesting that one of the largest terrestrial mammal to ever exist, today its descendant is very short, very stout, more touching the ground. So many a times my tourists just can't relate that the rhino's ancestor would have been so massive. So that's the Paraceratherium for you. Okay, one of the recent discoveries was of the snake from Kutch. So this snake was so massive that it could like easily, if you put it in the bus, it was as long as a school bus. So it has been called Vasuki indicus. Vasuki is actually the mythological snake around Shiva's neck. So it has been named after that snake, Vasuki indicus. So this was discovered from Kutch. Its papers were just out, I think, this year or sometime last year, I think. So this is again a very unique discovery from India. Okay, so this is a picture of me from 2011 at the University of Michigan, where I had done a workshop with Dr. Jeff Wilson, who's standing next to me. He's a professor at the university, and he's also one of the gentlemen who has very actively helped us with research in India. He's been part of the research for the Rajasaurus as well as the Sanaje indicus. And what we are holding between us is a single piece of a bone. It's a cast, actually, not a real bone, but it's a cast. So it's just to show you that some of the dinosaur bones were as tall as us. I mean, it was as tall as me. Now, this is something, again, which is very interesting and a lot of people don't know, but I do like to mention about it. Of course, snakes and lizards, they shed their skin and also research also says that, some of the dinosaurs also did that. But the picture, what it represents is actually dinosaurs used to swallow stones, to help them masticate the food, help them digest the food. Like even sometimes today's birds and all also do that. So the bones which, the stones which they used to swallow, they were called gastroliths. So they have also found gastroliths from India also, as well as another parts of the world. And interestingly, I get this question a lot from my tourists, that how do we know so much about dinosaurs? So this is something very interesting, that dinosaurs died 65 million years ago. They didn't leave a diary behind, neither did they have social media that I went there, I did that, I ate this, I ate that. So today, as scientists, today, as paleontologists, how do we know so much about them? So very small little things, but they give a very larger picture. They paint a very large picture, or we get to know so much about it. Like if you find a footprint, right, you find fossilized footprints, which are again a very, very rare thing. Unfortunately, they haven't found any footprints from India, but in other parts of the world, they have found footprints. So the deeper the footprint, the depression that that footprint has created, you can actually calculate the weight. The spacing of the footprint, you can calculate the speed or the gait, GAIT, that what was the speed of that dinosaur. And they have found teeth. So sharp pointed teeth means it came from a carnivore. Flat round teeth, which means it came from a herbivore. Interestingly, they have also found fossilized poop of dinosaur. Yes, I know that. It's so for some, it sounds quite yucky, but it's again a very, very rare thing to find. And believe me, there are groups on Facebook only for poop lovers of dinosaurs. So actually, the poop of dinosaur also has a name, which is called coprolite. So there are coprolite lovers and all that kinds of pages, and there are so many people who actually have found fossilized poops in the Western countries. And interestingly, here in India, the maximum amount of coprolites, that is the poop of the dinosaur, has been found in Maharashtra. It's a place called Chandrapur district, Dungargaon in Chandrapur district. So the farmers are plowing the fields and they find these fossilized poop there, in which in turn they give it to these paleontologists. So finding the poop, or finding the coprolite rather, one can make out what was the diet of that dinosaur. And some of the coprolites that they found in Maharashtra, they were able to find out that some of it contained rice, not the rice that we consume today, but it was the same family of the rice which existed 65 million years prior. So the rice existed in India for more than 65 million years ago. Not the same that we consume today, as I mentioned, but yeah, the same family. So this is again, about the gas, coming back to the gastroliths. This is again something very interesting. So when you find this, it shows about the dietary thing about the dinosaurs. So now this is again something which is very interesting. India, as I mentioned, has a lot to offer, but we don't know. And India, which today is in Asia, was not always in Asia. This also comes as a big shock to some of my tourists. So as you can see in the top map, India is nudged between Africa, Antarctica, and Australia. So in the earlier days, I'm sure most of you know, all the continents were connected together into one super landmass, which was called Pangaea. And it was surrounded by one large water body, which was called Panthalassa. India broke apart due to tectonic plate movement and volcanic activity. Actually, I think all the continents have moved from its original place, and then what they were and where they are today. So India, due to tectonic plate movement and volcanic activity, India broke apart from where it was attached to Madagascar, Africa, Antarctica, and Australia. And it floated like an island for millions of years, along with Sri Lanka and Madagascar. Madagascar broke apart and attached itself to Mozambique, where it is today. India and Sri Lanka moved north. And when we crashed with the Eurasian plate, what happened? The Himalayas got formed. So it's very interesting that today, when you go to the Himalayas, you find marine fossils, you find seashells on one of the highest mountain range. One wonders what is it doing there? That highest mountain range was actually part of the sea floor, part of the Tethys sea floor at one point of time. For that example, even you find a lot of marine fossils in present day Kutch. Now Kutch is a desert today, but you're finding marine fossils there. Yeah, so this is just again explaining about the extinction. So I know this is jumping the topic. So when we come to India, as I mentioned, India has a lot to offer. So we have also a role to play when it comes to the extinction. So, this is again a question that get asked a lot of times, that how did the dinosaurs die? There are two hypotheses as to how the extinction about the dinosaurs. Um, the most widely believed is definitely the asteroid, but then again, India has a role to play. And you've heard, I don't know if you've heard or not, but it is called the Deccan volcanism. I'm sure everyone has heard the word Deccan, the Deccan Plateau, or the Deccan Traps. So this is very interesting that there were volcanoes already erupting in India much before, or what was India at that time, much before the asteroid hit the earth. Okay, so there was already destruction happening in the India. So the animals which were living in India at that time were on the brink of extinction. At that time, an asteroid hit the earth in the Gulf of Mexico, the shallow waters of the Gulf of Mexico. So whichever animal was living near the water body perished, because due to tsunamis and all. Now the asteroid hit with such an impact that it shook the earth. So there were earthquakes to the magnitude of 9 to 11. And because you have such massive earthquakes, the magma chambers of the volcanoes from India, they opened wider. And lava started coming out in a much more larger quantity. And it spread to such an area which formed present day's Deccan Plateau or the Deccan Traps. So most of you are from Bombay or the region surrounding Bombay. Your Sayadri mountain range, your Western Ghats, your Panchgani, Mathiran, your Lonavala. How is it formed? Okay, so in the next slides also I'll tell you something again very interesting, which is in bang in the middle of Bombay. So this is all what has contributed to the extinction. So here I would just like to be brief and tell you this is a very long and lengthy topic, which is actually my pet subject. I'm doing research on it, but I'll not bore you much with it. But it's not that the asteroid hit a dinosaur and it died. The after effects or the repercussions of these two hypotheses are the reason which led to the extinction of 80% of the flora and fauna of the earth. What were the repercussions? The waters got contaminated, there was acidic rains, there were noxious gaseous fumes in the atmosphere. The asteroid as well as the volcanoes, they left such a thick layer of soot and dust in the atmosphere that there was no sunlight for 10,000 years. When there's no sunlight, what happens? There's no photosynthesis. No photosynthesis means your plant life is perished. No plant life means herbivores' food is gone. Herbivores perish, carnivores' food is gone. So it was a cycle. And this is not one day or 1 year, it was millions of years. But these two were the triggering points which killed 80% of the flora and fauna of this earth. These are your Deccan Traps. These are your Western Ghats. And does anyone recognize the picture at the bottom? On the right? That's Gilbert Hill, bang in the middle of Andheri. It's a monolithic rock basalt structure remaining of a prehistoric era, bang in the middle of a suburban Mumbai. Uh, I think it's preserved now. Just a little bit of this is all what is preserved right now. Honestly, I haven't been to it, though I wish to visit it whenever I have the time and I come to Bombay. So we should work together to protect this last lonely structure, because there are only 3 types of this kind existing in the world. 2 are in America and 1 is in India, in Bombay. So this is a Rajasaurus replica at our excavation site. Yeah, so this is actually showing, it's a picture from one of the books called, if you're interested in reading, then this is called Indica by Dr. Pranay Lal. It offers quite a bit of insight into the prehistoric world, prehistoric India, or how our world came about. And it's concentrating more on India. So this is a picture from there. So it shows the Indosuchus and a Rajasaurus, juvenile Titanosaurus, which is dead. So on the left side is a Rajasaurus. So these are some of the paleontologists from the US. So this is the time when they had come to do the research on the Sanaje indicus, the snake fossil. The gentleman in the blue shirt is Dr. Dhananjay Mohabe. He was the one who discovered the site. He was one of the geologists in 1980s. The one in the white shirt with the blue jeans and the cap is Dr. Jeff Wilson. And the other two they are snake experts from the US again. So this is the lab in the University of Chicago, where the Rajasaurus and the Sanaje indicus specimens were prepared. So the gentleman who is behind in the gray shirt is actually, his name is Tyler Keeler. He's a artist. He's a paleo artist. So he's the one who gives life to these these specimens. He gives life to the fossils that we find. And I've had the honor of meeting him. He also gifted me a book, and he gave me a couple of pictures also of the Sanaje indicus, which I have. And those are some of my prized possessions. This is the dinosaur excavation site in Rahioli. Again, these are just vistas that you can see. The top picture I like. If you see this, there's a Titanosaurus and there's a Rajasaurus. So actually, they are in different locations. But the angle from where I have, this is the picture clicked by me. The angle of from where I've clicked the picture shows how the Rajasaurus is ready to attack the Titanosaurus. So this is a picture which is very close to my heart. So this is my labor of love. 28 years of my hard work has got me where this is today. So the first picture, welcome to Balasinor with the dinosaur, is a massive signage which welcomes you at the at the entry of Balasinor. It's on the Ahmedabad Indore National Highway. Then the other one is the entry to the museum. The third picture is the part two of the museum, as well as the fourth picture is phase two of the museum. So we do have the life size skeleton, the model of the Titanosaurus indicus, but unfortunately, we don't have real fossils in it. All of them are artificial. So this is the museum at Rahioli village in Balasinor. This is just a photograph, not from Rahioli, but this shows that dinosaurs, how they laid the eggs. So the dinosaurs laid eggs in a clutch or a cluster of 5 to 7 to 15 to 20 eggs. And Andrew Roy Chapman was the one who discovered the first dinosaur eggs in the year 1923 from the Gobi Desert. That's in Mongolia. But the largest discovery of dinosaur eggs is actually Aix-en-Provence in France. And then second is Mongolia, and third is Balasinor, Rahioli Balasinor. So this is just to show you that some of the dinosaur eggs were as large as what the gentleman is holding in comparison to the egg of a hen. I also get asked this question a lot of times: what was the weight of a dinosaur egg? So approximately 7 to 8 kilos is what they are weighing, the herbivore eggs. Now these are some of the pictures of the eggs which are in my collection. So what you see on top and at the bottom are carnivore eggs. So there's a very distinctive feature as to how to identify the eggs. If you find oval, teardrop, or pear-shaped eggs, they belong to a carnivore. And if you find a spherical or a round egg, it belongs to a herbivore. But they look like rocks. So this again, a question comes to me: how can you identify it's an egg or a rock? So on the egg, you can actually see the shell, and on that you can see tiny little dots, which what we call pores. And these were the pores which used to help supply oxygen to the the fetus inside. The next slide, please. I'll show you. So this is what an inside of a fossilized egg looks like. So this is a very well cleaned and prepared dinosaur egg fossil. You can see very clearly the bones of the baby inside. This is not from India, but it's from one of the Western countries. So this is a close view of what an eggshell would look like. So you can see the pattern on it. So these tiny little dots, what we call pores, are the ones which used to supply oxygen to the fetus inside. So only this pattern is the distinguishing feature, that it's a egg, not a rock. Now, these are some of the bones. The one on the top are actually rib bones, again, part of my personal collection. And the other picture is part of a close-up of a vertebrae, which is at the excavation site. It is still there. It's in the natural form. Now, the one which is on top, which is the rib bone, And most of my collection has been identified by Smithsonian Museum, Washington. So I do have a stamp of approval from one of the highest authorities in the world. So that's Dr. Mojave. He's holding the first dinosaur egg, which was discovered from Rahioli in the 1980s. So that's me again with one of the paleontologists. So, honestly speaking, I'm a humble student of English literature. I studied Romeo, Juliet, Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare, Homer. All of a sudden, my life took a 360-degree turn, and I started learning about paleontology. So, I'm a self taught paleontologist. I don't have a degree in paleontology, but I do have a 28 years of an experience in this field. But whenever the opportunity arises that I get to interact with these paleontologists, I never miss it. So that's me with one of the paleontologists at the site, learning as much as I can. So that again, that's a close up of one of the eggs, and then one of the villager holding some dinosaur eggs, and that's me and Jeff at the site at Rahioli, where he actually is explaining to me about the Sanaje indicus. So this lady is actually my mentor. I never got to meet her because she lived in a different lifetime. She's Mary Anning. She's someone that I admire quite a lot because she was one lady who fought for what was actually hers, but she never got her due recognition. She was the lady who discovered the first coprolites from United Kingdom, and also the lady who discovered one of the first ichthyosaurs, which was the marine reptile. Um, the reason I like to talk about her or the ichthyosaur is because we've also discovered the ichthyosaur from Kutch in Gujarat. And the other picture that you see, the two fossils, those are actually the coprolites. So these are in the University of Michigan. If you look at it closely, you can also see that it has on the smaller portion. You can see there's some fungus on it. So I had the honor of actually holding these coprolites in my hands when I was there in the University of Michigan. At that time, I did not know what I was holding, but it's a very, very interesting find. And the one at the bottom is actually the ichthyosaur, which was discovered by Mary Anning. So today, Mary Anning has been given her due honor. They have erected a statue in Lime Ridges in present day United Kingdom in her honor. This is the ichthyosaur from Kutch. So this was discovered in 2016 by German and Indian through German and Indian collaboration, Delhi University and the University of Kutch. So this is again very interesting that you find a marine creature bang in the middle of a desert. And another interesting part of this was that this was nearly complete, which is again it's a rarity because you don't find nearly complete fossils. So we were also very fortunate to be featured in Amar Chitra Katha many some years back. Just some geological humor, and I think that's the end of our session. So I do have a surprise for you guys also, but I think we can hold on to the surprise after the question answer round or whatever the host decides.
No, it's up to you. If you want to hold on to the surprise for a little longer, we'll go with that.
Yeah, I think we should hold on to it a bit longer.
Okay, let's do that then. Anyway, we have a couple of questions. Um, Amar is asking, where can one see the prominent evidence of the dinosaurs present in India to see for oneself as an enthusiast, not as an academician? So, if someone just wants to see these evidence of dinosaurs in India, where can they see that?
Rahioli Balasinor, where else, Amar?
No, that of course. Besides, is that of course, and I think everyone should
Amar,
be
by
able
the
to.
way, someone that I had interacted with for a show, which
Okay,
unfortunately did not happen.
okay.
So nice to see you here, Amar. I hope in the near future you can get to Balasinor and we can do something together. Other than that, you can of course come and visit the fossil site and the museum also. You see, to his question, there are actually a lot of excavation sites in India.
Mhm.
But then the problem is that not all of them are tourist friendly and not all of them have a museum attached to it.
Right,
Ours is the only site which has a museum
right.
in very close to the, just like few meters away from the actual excavation site. And as I said, that's my labor of love. Why?
Yeah,
Because I literally fought for that museum to be in that tiny little village of Rahioli.
yeah.
Government did not want it there. They wanted it in a city. They wanted it in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Baroda, Ahmedabad.
Mm,
But then, if that museum would have been there, then our place would have lost its significance. No
absolutely.
one would have come here.
Yeah,
So I met with a lot of opposition. I met with a lot of, like, the government was like, why should we do it here? It's the back of beyonds. Who will come here?
yeah.
No infrastructure. So I said, you create the infrastructure, then you will, people will start visiting.
I'm sure.
S-
Yeah.
So today, in the first year, 2019, when we inaugurated part one of the museum, in 6 months of its inauguration, we had more than 1 lakh visitors,
Wow, that's amazing.
which is, yeah, it's quite, it's like, it's a big number considering it's a rural area.
Yes.
And I know for a fact that when I used to go from my home to the museum, it used to take me 1 hour on a dirt road.
Yeah.
Today it takes me 12 minutes because we've got roads made. We've got, you saw the big signage. Apart from that, we've got smaller signages. So once the infrastructure is in place, and I've done something which is called dino tourism. So, I get tourists from all over the world who are coming to Rayoli, a tiny little village.
That's really an amazing feat and something I think you should be very proud of.
I am. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, so, and I think we all need to take a trip to Balasinor. Anyway, Kamalika has another question. She said, are snakes the oldest living creatures present?
No, no, no. Snakes are not. Jellyfish is considered to be the oldest,
Okay.
not snakes. But snakes existed with dinosaurs because we have found a lot of fossilized remains, not only of the Vasuki indicus, but as I said, Sanaji indicus. Then there's a Titanoboa. Apart from that, there are various other snakes also. So, as I mentioned in the session, there were not only dinosaurs living on this planet, there were other mammals, reptiles, both on the land, in the water, and we had avian reptiles also. So there were lots of creatures, but of course, they were very different than what you see today.
Okay, and one more question. Could there be marine reptiles and pterosauruses from India? I think,
Marine reptiles, yes, the ichthyosaur. Other than that, we haven't found avian reptiles. No, I don't think there have been much discovery. You see, the problem with India is we lack in trained professionals,
mhm.
and most important, we lack in dedication, or we lack in, like, you just don't care. So money, yes, funds are also a big issue. If we have funds, then we don't have the trained professionals. If we have the trained professionals, we don't have the funds. So India has a lot to offer, but we are not able to tap onto the potential.
Yeah, I think, but people like you are really dedicated, and hopefully that will change soon.
Well, it's 28 years, nothing much has happened. The
For
surprise, the
Oh
surprise.
yes, the surprise. Sorry.
This is a dinosaur
Oh wow,
limb bone.
it's a which bone?
Limb, part of the lower leg of
Muscle.
the dinosaur.
That's
So
crazy.
I don't know if you can see it. You
Yeah.
can you can see the fibrous lines on it,
Yes.
and you can see this texture, a
Yeah.
grainy texture.
Yes.
That's the identification feature that it's a bone. So this is a bone from a carnivore dinosaur, and
Wow.
this was all identified by Smithsonian Museum, Washington.
That's amazing. That's truly amazing and
So,
well worth the wait.
and these bones, apart from these, you will get to see a lot of other bones and eggs with me if you're doing the tour with me at the museum. And last but not the least, my most prized possession.
Okay.
Today you go to rural areas, you don't find mixers and grinders with villagers. They use a mortar and a pestle to grind their masalas.
Yeah.
So I found this particular piece of rock with one of the village women, and she was using it to grind her masala. Little did she know that in reality it was a dinosaur egg.
That's crazy.
So this egg, because it was covered with chilies, I gave it a name, masala anda, masala egg. So this is an egg of a carnivore.
Wow, I cannot believe she was using it for that.
Yeah, so you can see the shell, You can see the tiny little dots on it. I don't know if they're visible or not.
Yes, they are. They are.
Yeah, so my very popular, very famous masala anda for you.
What was her
Mr.
reaction when
Ram
you told
Kumar was
her?
the one who held it in his hand.
Yeah,
Maybe he can share some pictures with you guys later.
yeah. What was her reaction when you told her?
um, she was least bothered. And when I wanted it, she was like, "Why am I fighting for a piece of rock?"
Yeah, I get it.
So yeah, but she parted it very reluctantly because she was like, "If you take this away, what will I grind my masala with?" So I
That
said,
makes
I'll give
sense.
you money to go buy a mixer grinder. So she said, okay, fine. But who will pay for my electricity bill? So anyway, I had no answer to that. But
Yeah,
the villagers then persuaded her that you should give it to her
yeah,
because, locally, the villagers, they could pull some weight around.
yeah,
So then
true.
I was able to get this piece in my hand. But yeah, this is one of my most prized possession.
That is,
Lots of stories on this masala anda on Google.
that's a lovely story, and thank you for sharing it with us, and thank you for showing us your two surprises.
There's lots more, but that can be only shown to you when you visit us.
Okay,
Everything I'll not show you.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
so much.
I hope to see you all in Balasnor one fine day.
Yes, and thank you very much again for giving us your time, and we hope to see you in person now. Thank you, and thank you.
Most welcome.
Attend.
See you.
Please attend our
Thank you,
talk.
everyone.